They said he was done. They said the NBA had moved on from him. That he was a backup center on a rebuilding team that didn't even want him anymore. That at 30 years old, after one quiet, forgettable season in New Orleans, Kevon Looney's best days were behind him. That he was just another veteran big man wandering the free agent market, hoping somebody, anybody, would take a chance. And then the Los Angeles Lakers called. Not just any team. The Los Angeles Lakers. The franchise with 17 championship banners. The franchise of Kobe, Magic, Kareem, Shaq, and LeBron. The most famous basketball team on the planet. And they didn't just call, they signed him. 1 year, $3.9 million. A veteran's minimum. And just like that, Kevon Looney went from forgotten backup in New Orleans to a man with a job on a team that is right now completely reinventing itself around a European superstar named Luka Doncic, trying to chase another championship. But this story, this whole crazy, winding, unbelievable story, it isn't just about one contract. This is the story of a kid from Milwaukee who grew up idolizing Kobe Bryant. A kid who fought through 2 hip surgeries before he ever played a single meaningful NBA game. A kid who was picked 30th, dead last in the first round, by a dynasty in the making, and somehow found a way to hold on long enough to win 3 championship rings with them. A kid who was told, quietly, that his time was up, only to find himself putting on purple and gold in the craziest Lakers offseason in years. This is Kevon Looney. And this is the story of how he ended up on the Los Angeles Lakers. Buckle up. Let's start at the very beginning, because if you're going to understand what this signing means, you need to understand who Kevon Looney actually is. Not the stats. Not the contract numbers. The actual human being behind all of it. Kevon Grant Looney was born on February 6, 1996, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Say that date out loud. February 6, 1996. That means Looney grew up watching the late Kobe Bryant era. He watched Kobe score 81 points. He watched Kobe win 5 championships. He copied Kobe's moves. He watched tape. He studied footwork. He practiced the mid-range. In a city far from Hollywood, in a place where Wisconsin winters are brutal and basketball courts are a refuge from the cold, a young Kevon Looney fell in love with the Lakers. His father, Doug Looney, played college basketball at Schreiner University in Texas and became the school's all-time leading rebounder. So basketball was in the family. It was in the blood. And growing up, Kevon had an older brother named Kevin, 6 years older, who played pickup games and let little Kevon tag along. But there was one rule. If young Kevon wanted to play with the older kids, he had better rebound. He had better chase down every missed shot, hustle for every loose ball, do the dirty work. No glory shots. Just rebounding. That one little rule from an older brother in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, would shape the entire career of Kevon Looney. He developed fast. By the time he got to Hamilton High School in Milwaukee, Looney was averaging 27.9 points, 12.7 rebounds, 7.0 assists, and 8.0 blocks per game his senior year. That's not a typo. 8.0 blocks. He was doing things on that court that nobody in the state had seen from a high school kid in years. And the basketball world took notice. Looney was named the 2014 Gatorade Player of the Year in Wisconsin. He was named Associated Press Player of the Year in Wisconsin. He was ranked as a 5-star recruit. He was considered one of the best high school players in the entire country. He chose UCLA. The UCLA Bruins. Out in California, just a short drive from the Staples Center, now called Crypto.com Arena, where his idol Kobe Bryant played. And in his one season there, Looney proved he belonged at the highest level. He led all freshmen in the entire nation in double-doubles. He earned second-team All-Pac-12 honors. He was already operating at a level that made scouts drool. So after just 1 year in college, Looney made the call. He declared for the NBA draft. And here's where the first twist in this story appears. Before the 2015 NBA draft, Looney was already dealing with a serious hip injury. A torn labrum in his right hip. In the basketball world, this is the kind of thing that makes teams nervous. The kind of thing that drops a prospect from lottery consideration to a question mark. The kind of injury that makes front offices pause and say, is it worth it? Some teams crossed him off their boards completely. But not the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors, fresh off their 2015 championship, their first in 40 years, were looking at Looney and seeing something different. They saw a big man with elite instincts. A guy who understood the game at a level you can't coach. A guy who could rebound, screen, and defend without needing the ball. And they took him. Pick 30. The very last pick of the first round of the 2015 NBA draft. Looney signed with the Warriors on July 8, 2015. And within weeks, he went under the knife for surgery on that right hip. His rookie season was a disaster, and it wasn't even his fault. He played in just 5 games in the 2015-16 season. The Warriors were in the middle of a historic 73-win season, one of the greatest regular season performances in NBA history, and Looney spent most of it watching from the bench in street clothes. He had a second surgery, this time on his left hip. He was in pain. He was rehabbing. He was young, far from home, sitting on the sideline watching Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green do things on a basketball court that nobody had ever seen before. And the Golden State Warriors won the championship that year, their second in 2 seasons, without Kevon Looney playing a meaningful role. That is brutal. That is the kind of thing that breaks a young player's spirit. Imagine being a rookie, being selected by the best team in basketball, and spending your first year hurt, wondering if you'll ever truly get your shot. But Looney didn't break. He didn't give up. Instead, he hired a personal trainer. He changed his diet. He overhauled his body. He is reported to have lost around 30 pounds during the rehabilitation process, not because he needed to, but because he wanted to come back stronger, leaner, and more athletic. He was obsessed with proving that he belonged. And in 2016-17 he started to show it. The 2016-17 season was the beginning of something. Looney played in 53 games off the bench, averaging 8.4 minutes a night. These are not glamorous numbers. Nobody was putting Kevon Looney on a poster. Nobody was making highlight videos of his rebounding. But he was there. He was contributing. He was learning from some of the greatest players of his generation every single day in practice. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant. Think about that for a second. Your practice squad is Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant. Your defensive assignments in practice are Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. Your playmaker in scrimmages is Steph Curry. And you're being coached by Steve Kerr, one of the most brilliant basketball minds alive. Every single day, Looney was being forged in one of the hottest fires in NBA history. And when the Warriors won the championship in June 2017, sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers in the finals, Looney had his first ring. The kid from Milwaukee. The kid who spent most of his rookie year on the operating table. The kid who was taken with the very last pick of the first round. He had a championship ring before he had turned 22 years old. But the best was still to come. The 2017-18 season is where Looney started to truly announce himself. He appeared in 66 regular season games. His role was growing. His minutes were ticking up. And when the playoffs came around, Looney stepped into something that nobody could have predicted. The Warriors faced the Houston Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. James Harden, Chris Paul, the 2 best guards in the NBA at that point. Physical, creative, relentless. And at a crucial moment, the Warriors needed their front court to step up. Looney stepped up. He moved into the starting lineup in Game 4 after Andre Iguodala went down with a leg injury. He started the final 4 games of that series. He was out there guarding James Harden, defending Chris Paul, doing the dirty work that doesn't get talked about in highlight shows. And the Warriors won. They beat Houston 4-3 and advanced to the finals. Then they swept the Cleveland Cavaliers again. For games. Another championship. Looney had his second ring. And this time, he had actually earned it on the court. He had played in 21 playoff games, averaging over 4 points and 4 rebounds in 18 minutes a night. For a big man on a guard-driven team, those are meaningful contributions. The kid who once couldn't even get through his rookie year healthy was now a 2-time NBA champion at 22 years old. The years that followed were a mixed bag. And this is the part of the story that's important to understand, because it explains everything about what kind of player and what kind of man Kevon Looney is. The Warriors went through their own struggles. Kevin Durant left for Brooklyn after the 2019 Finals loss to Toronto. Klay Thompson tore his ACL in that same series, then came back and tore his Achilles in his very first practice back. Steph Curry broke his hand. The dynasty was fractured, and the Warriors lost. A lot. For a team that had been to 5 straight NBA Finals, losing was a strange new feeling. But through all of it, through the rebuilding, through the losing seasons, through the uncertainty, Kevon Looney was still there. He re-signed with Golden State year after year. 1-year deal. Then another. Then a longer one. He could have left. He probably could have gotten more money, more guaranteed minutes, on other teams. But he stayed. He stayed because he believed in the Warriors. He believed in the culture that Steve Kerr had built. He believed that his role, the unglamorous, unseen, vital role of the reliable big man, was exactly what that team needed. And then 2021-22 happened. And Kevon Looney got his moment. The 2021-22 Warriors were a different team. Steph Curry was healthy. Klay Thompson was back after more than 2 years away. Draymond Green was still Draymond Green. And a new generation of Warriors, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, was growing up fast. But in the frontcourt, Kevon Looney had become something more than a backup. He had become the starter. The every-night guy. The anchor. He appeared in 80 games that year. He was playing more than he ever had. And when the playoffs came and the Warriors started making their run, Looney was right there at the heart of it. The Warriors beat the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. Then they faced the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. 6 games of some of the most intense basketball of the decade. And Looney was in every single moment. Rebounding. Setting screens. Making the right play. Being, as one San Francisco Chronicle headline put it at the time, the Warriors' MVP for a night. On June 17, 2022, the Golden State Warriors won their 4th championship of the decade. Their 7th in franchise history. And Kevon Looney, the last pick of the first round, the guy who had 2 hip surgeries before his career even started, the quiet kid from Milwaukee who modeled his game after Kobe Bryant, had his 3rd championship ring. 3 rings. In 7 seasons. At 26 years old. For a player who was never once an all-star. A player who never led his team in scoring. A player who never won Defensive Player of the Year or any individual award of any kind. 3 rings. Now let's fast forward, because the story takes a turn here that sets up everything that's happening with the Lakers right now. After the 2022 title, Looney continued in Golden State. He signed extension after extension. The 2022-23 season was actually his statistical peak. He averaged 7.0 points and a career-best 9.3 rebounds per game across all 82 regular season games. He was a workhorse. He was durable. He was doing exactly what he had always done. Showing up, doing the work, staying out of trouble, making the team better. But the Warriors were aging. Steph Curry was 35. Klay Thompson was 33 and eventually left for Dallas. Draymond Green's contract situation became complicated. The dynasty was slowly, quietly, inevitably winding down. By the 2024-25 season, Looney was still a Warrior, but his role had shrunk. He played in 76 games, but averaged just 15 minutes a night. The writing was on the wall. The Warriors were looking at younger options. The team that had given Looney everything was now, slowly, carefully, respectfully, moving on. And then in the summer of 2025, after 10 full seasons in Golden State, Kevon Looney signed with the New Orleans Pelicans. A 2-year, $16 million deal. A new chapter. A new city. A new team. He wrote a letter, a beautiful, emotional letter, to the Warriors and their fans, published in the Players' Tribune. He talked about how scary it had been sometimes. He talked about being out on the court, facing James Harden in the Western Conference Finals, feeling like he was on an island and just figuring it out. He talked about the trust his coaches and teammates had placed in him. And he talked about how much that place, that building, that organization, those people, had meant to him. It was a goodbye. A grateful, proud, bittersweet goodbye. But New Orleans didn't quite work out the way he hoped. The Pelicans were in full rebuilding mode. They were playing younger centers, Derek Queen, Yves Missy, guys they were trying to develop for the future. Looney, at 30 years old, wasn't part of that future. He was a veteran presence, a steady hand, a winning voice in the locker room, but he wasn't getting the minutes. He played in just 21 games the entire season. He averaged 14.7 minutes a night. His numbers, 2.8 points and 5.6 rebounds, reflected the limited opportunity, not the player. He dealt with a left knee injury that kept him out early in the season. And at the end of the year, the Pelicans made their decision. They declined his $8 million team option for the 2026-27 season. They let him walk. Just like that, Kevon Looney was a free agent again. The three-time champion. The screen setter. The offensive rebounder. The quiet professional. The guy who had done everything right, played on the best team in the league for a decade, won more rings than most NBA players ever dream of, now sitting in free agency, wondering what comes next. And multiple teams took notice. The New York Knicks. The Boston Celtics. Both were reported to be interested. Both were playoff contenders looking for exactly what Looney provides. Low cost, low ego, high impact interior presence. But then the Lakers made their move. To truly understand why the Lakers signing Kevon Looney is a bigger deal than it might look on the surface, you need to understand what the Lakers have been doing this offseason. And trust me, it has been absolutely wild. Let's rewind to the beginning of the summer. The Los Angeles Lakers had just finished a season built around two of the biggest names in basketball, LeBron James and Luka Doncic. LeBron, at 41 years old, was still one of the most transcendent players alive. Luka Doncic, the 27-year-old Slovenian superstar who had been traded to the Lakers in one of the most shocking deals in NBA history, was averaging 33.5 points, 8.3 assists, and 7.7 rebounds per game, leading the entire NBA in scoring, putting up 8 triple-doubles and 34 double-doubles. The man was playing at an MVP level. But the roster around them had real holes. The center position, in particular, had been a problem all season. The Lakers had signed DeAndre Ayton to fill that role, but Ayton was inconsistent. His defense wasn't where it needed to be. His effort was questioned. And for a team trying to be a legitimate championship contender, having question marks at center was a problem. Then LeBron dropped the bombshell. On a Tuesday morning, in the middle of the biggest NBA free agency period in years, LeBron James informed the Los Angeles Lakers that he would not be returning for the 2026-27 season. He was leaving. 38 years old, one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, and he was walking out the door, choosing to prioritize his happiness and find his next situation, whatever that would be. For a franchise already going through a massive identity shift, this was seismic. The Lakers without LeBron James. The end of an era. Just like when Shaq left. Just like when Kobe retired. Except this time, instead of uncertainty, the Lakers had a plan. They had Luka Doncic. And now, for the first time since Doncic had arrived, they were going to build the entire roster around him, and only him. The result was one of the most frenetic 24-hour periods in Lakers offseason history. In the span of about 35 minutes on a single Wednesday morning, the front office pulled off something stunning. They agreed to a massive sign-and-trade deal with the Utah Jazz to acquire Walker Kessler, a 7'2" center who averaged 11.1 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks per game the previous season, who led the entire league in offensive rebounding, and who was exactly the kind of rolling, rim-protecting big that Luka Doncic had reportedly asked the front office to find. The price was enormous, a 4-year, $130 million contract, plus 2 unprotected future first-round picks and 2 first-round swaps. That's a massive commitment. That's the kind of move that a franchise makes when they believe they're building something real. And in those same 35 minutes, the Lakers also signed Quentin Grimes, a wing who played alongside Doncic in Dallas, to a multi-year deal. They signed Sandro Mamukelashvili, a skilled, versatile big who can shoot and handle the ball, to a 4-year contract. They signed Colin Sexton, a downhill scorer who can take pressure off the starters, to a 2-year deal. Oh, and Austin Reeves. They re-signed Austin Reeves, Doncic's backcourt partner and one of the most underrated creators in the entire NBA, to a reported $185 million extension, locking in the guy who had quietly become one of the most important players in the league. General manager Rob Pelinka was not messing around. But all of this moves had a cost. Because the Lakers acquired Kessler through a sign-and-trade, they were now hard-capped. Every remaining move had to be made carefully, efficiently, within strict financial limits. There was no room for splashy, expensive signings anymore. And there was still one very obvious hole in the roster. After trading DeAndre Ayton to the Washington Wizards, in a move that brought back guard Jaden Hardy and a couple of second-round picks, the Lakers had no proven backup center. Kessler was their starter. But Kessler missed most of last season with a torn labrum in his shoulder. He's talented, no question, but he's only 24 years old. He's still unproven in a full playoff run. What happens if he gets in foul trouble? What happens if he gets hurt again? You need a backup. You need someone who has been in big moments. Someone who knows how to win. Someone who can anchor the second unit, defend multiple frontcourt matchups, and keep possessions alive on the offensive glass. The Knicks wanted Kevon Looney. The Celtics wanted Kevon Looney. There was real competition for his services. And then the Lakers moved. 1 year, $3.9 million. Veterans minimum. Because of the way the hard cap works, the deal only counts as about $2.4 million against the cap. It's an incredibly efficient signing for a team working within tight financial constraints. Shams Charania, ESPN's insider, the most connected reporter in basketball, broke the news. And the basketball world took a moment to digest it. Kevon Looney. Los Angeles Lakers. The kid who grew up a Kobe fan. Who copied Kobe's moves in the driveway. Who dreamed of the purple and gold. Who is going to spend the 2026-27 NBA season playing in the arena that Kobe Bryant made iconic. Sometimes life has a way of completing circles in the most unexpected ways. There's something else worth talking about, and it's something that gets overlooked in conversations about veteran role players. Looney averaged 5.1 screen assists per 36 minutes during his season with New Orleans. That ranks among the elite screen setters in the entire NBA. In a Luka Doncic offense, where defenses are constantly sending extra bodies at the ball handler and loading up to stop the primary creator, effective screen setting is not a luxury. It's a weapon. Every time Looney sets a hard screen on a guard chasing Doncic, a defender has to make a choice. Fight through the screen and potentially give Luka a step, or go under the screen and give Luka a mid-range pull-up. And if they switch? Now Looney, a 6'9", 220-pound center with championship experience, has a smaller guard on his back in the post. That's an automatic bucket. That's offensive rebounding position. That's a kick-out to an open three. It all connects. For a team with Walker Kessler as the starter, a brilliant but still developing young player, having Kevon Looney as the backup is like having an experienced co-pilot available when you need him. Let's also take a moment to appreciate the bigger picture of what is happening with the Los Angeles Lakers right now, because this team, this rebuilt, overhauled, completely different version of the Lakers, is genuinely fascinating. A year ago, the Lakers were a team built around aging greatness. LeBron James. A roster of veterans assembled around a 39-year-old legend in what everyone knew was the final act of something legendary. It was beautiful in its own way. It was historic. It was emotional. And the Lakers won playoff games. They competed. LeBron still had something left. But the future was murky. The center position was a mess. The roster construction around Doncic and LeBron never quite made sense. Two ball-dominant players. Two all-time talents who both needed the ball, both needed to create, both needed to be the focal point. On paper, they could coexist. And often they did. But there were growing pains. There were stretches where the offense stagnated. There were late-game moments that were complicated by having two alpha playmakers. Now, the Lakers have made their choice. Luka Doncic is the guy. He's the guy. Everything is being built around what he needs, what he wants, what he thrives in. An A-list center who rolls to the rim and doesn't need touches? Done. Walker Kessler. A wing who can defend on the perimeter and space the floor? Done. Quentin Grimes. A secondary creator who can take pressure off Luka? Done. Colin Sexton. A skilled, versatile big who can play multiple positions? Done. Sandro Mamukelashvili. A dependable backcourt partner who can handle creation duties when Luka rests? Done. Austin Reeves locked up for years. And now, a veteran backup center with 3 championship rings who can anchor the second unit, extend possessions, and provide proven playoff insurance? Done. Kevon Looney. This Lakers team is younger than last year's version. It's more athletic. It's built with a clear identity. And while the national analysts have been somewhat skeptical, acknowledging that no single addition replaces what LeBron provided in shot creation and late-game clutch moments, there is a real argument that this roster is better constructed around Doncic's specific skill set than anything the Lakers have put around him since he arrived. And Rob Pelinka, the man who engineered all of this, is clearly thinking about more than just next season. He's already in pursuit of Jonathan Kuminga, the former Warriors forward who Looney played alongside in Golden State, who is currently a free agent after the Atlanta Hawks declined his team option. The Lakers have 1 roster spot remaining. They're working within severe financial constraints. But Pelinka has shown all offseason that he is creative, resourceful, and absolutely relentless in trying to put the best possible team around Luka Doncic. The Looney signing wasn't the last move. It was the latest one. There's one more layer to this story that I can't leave out. And it might be the most human part of all of it. Kevon Looney grew up a Kobe Bryant fan. He watched tapes of Kobe as a kid in Milwaukee. He copied Kobe's footwork. He studied Kobe's moves. His older brother let him play pickup basketball, but only if Kevon rebounded, and that habit of relentless hustle and blue-collar work is pure Kobe DNA, even if Looney would never be the scorer that Kobe was. And now, Kevon Looney, the 30-year-old veteran with 3 rings and a lifetime of basketball wisdom, is going to play his home games in the arena where Kobe Bryant spent his entire career. He's going to put on the purple and gold. He's going to hear Kobe chanted in Crypto.com arena by a Lakers faithful that still mourns and celebrates and worships the Black Mamba every single night. There's something beautiful about that. Something full circle about it. A kid who studied Kobe, who modeled his dedication and work ethic after Kobe, who understood from childhood that rings are won in the dark, in the weight room, on the practice court, in the cold early mornings, finally finding himself wearing the colors of his childhood heroes team. Looney is also engaged, as of February 2025, to his longtime girlfriend Mariah Simone Winston. He proposed to her during the All-Star break. So he's heading into this new chapter of his career with stability and happiness in his personal life too. He's not the struggling rookie anymore. He's not the guy fighting for survival. He's a grown man, a champion, a leader, settling into exactly who he is. Let's talk about the reactions because the basketball world has had a lot to say about this signing. Among actual NBA analysts and insiders who understand what Looney does, the rebounding percentages, the screen assists, the defensive positioning, the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. He fills a specific, crucial need for a very specific price. A veteran's minimum. A cap hit of $2.4 million. For a team that is hard-capped and working within tight financial limits, that is an extraordinarily efficient use of roster space. The criticism, if there is any, tends to focus on 2 things. 1. Looney is not a vertical threat. He can't catch lob passes above the rim the way some centers can. He's not a shot blocker who will change game outcomes on his own. 2. His 2025-26 season in New Orleans, only 21 games, limited role, raises questions about his health and whether the Pelicans' decision not to pick up his option reflected something concerning about his physical condition. But here's what the numbers actually say. Even in that limited season, Looney's offensive rebounding percentage was 16.6%. That is elite. That is better than almost any other center who was on the free agent market. His screen-setting numbers were excellent. And he's only 30 years old, in an era where centers routinely play well into their mid-30s. The knee injury that cost him time in New Orleans appears to have been managed and addressed. He came through free agency healthy enough to attract interest from the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Lakers. If 3 playoff contenders are willing to put him on their rosters, he clearly passed the physical evaluations. For JJ Redick, the Lakers head coach, a former NBA player himself who understands what winning teams need, Looney is exactly the kind of piece that makes coaching easier. He doesn't need plays called for him. He doesn't need touches. He doesn't need recognition. He just needs to be in the right spot, set the screen, grab the rebound, and make the next right play. For a coach building a system around Luka Doncic's genius, having role players who operate with that kind of simplicity and efficiency is invaluable. Now let's zoom out one more time, because this signing doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a much larger story about what the Los Angeles Lakers are trying to become. For the last several years, the Lakers have been a team searching for its identity. They had LeBron, and LeBron was enough to make them competitive and even championship-worthy in 2020, when they won their 17th title in the bubble. But building around a 37, 38, 39-year-old legend is inherently complicated. You're always one injury away from the whole thing collapsing. You're always aware that time is running out. The Doncic trade, that seismic, stunning move that sent Anthony Davis to Dallas and brought Luka to Los Angeles, was the franchise's declaration that the future starts now. Luka Doncic is 27 years old. He's in the prime of his prime. He's going to be a cornerstone of this franchise for the next decade, maybe longer. And the Lakers are going to build around him in a way that they couldn't fully do when they were sharing the spotlight with LeBron. Walker Kessler is the centerpiece of the rebuild. Young, dominant, built for the modern NBA. A rim protector who can anchor a defense and be a lob threat for Doncic on offense. Austin Reeves is the secondary creator. Quentin Grimes and Sandro Mamukelashvili provide shooting and versatility on the wings. Colin Sexton gives the bench a genuine shot maker. And Kevon Looney? Looney is the wisdom. He's the championship experience. He's the quiet veteran who has been in 7 NBA finals, 3 as a champion, and who knows what it takes to compete when the pressure is at its absolute highest. Young teams need veterans. Not veterans who demand the spotlight, not veterans who need the ball, not veterans who show up on the wrong page of the playbook because they're used to doing things differently. They need veterans who fit, who adapt, who lead by example, who make everyone around them better. Kevon Looney is exactly that veteran. One more thing, and this is worth pausing on. The basketball world often measures value by statistics. Points per game, rebounds per game, win shares, box plus minus, all the numbers. And by those traditional measurements, Kevon Looney has never been a superstar. He's never been a star. He's never even been a particularly prominent starting center. But here's the thing about basketball, the numbers don't capture everything. They don't capture what it means for a young center like Walker Kessler to have a 3-time champion in the locker room every day who has been in this situation. The late season pressure, the playoff intensity, the finals moments, and can tell him exactly what to expect and how to handle it. They don't capture what it means for Luka Doncic, a player who has been to 1 NBA Finals so far and is desperately hungry to win his first championship, to have a teammate who has already been there 3 times, who can speak from experience about what works and what doesn't. They don't capture what it means for JJ Redick, a first-year head coach going into his 2nd season with the team, learning on the job at the highest level, to have a player in his rotation who just works, who doesn't create problems, who doesn't need to be managed, who shows up, does his job, and makes the team better every single night. Those things have value. Enormous value. And they're exactly why the Knicks and the Celtics were both interested in Kevon Looney before the Lakers swooped in and closed the deal. So here we are. July 2026. The Los Angeles Lakers have just completed a stunning off-season overhaul. LeBron James is gone, off to wherever the final chapter of his story takes him. Luka Doncic is the face of the franchise, the centerpiece of everything, the man around whom an entire roster has been constructed from scratch. Walker Kessler is the new starting center, young and dominant and full of potential. Austin Reeves is locked in as the loyal second star. Quentin Grimes and Colin Sexton and Sandro Mamukelashvili are filling roles that the roster desperately needed. And Kevon Looney, the kid from Milwaukee, the 3-time champion, The guy who came back from 2 hip surgeries to build one of the most quietly impressive careers in modern NBA history, is the backup center. The veteran anchor. The championship voice in the room. He signed for $3.9 million. 1 year. The veteran's minimum. He's worth so much more than that. Not in dollars. In everything else. Here's what I want you to take away from this story. In sports, we tend to celebrate the obvious things. The scoring titles. The MVP awards. The max contracts. The highlights. The players who make the SportsCenter top 10. And those things are real and they matter. But the teams that win championships, the ones that hold the trophy in June and get to celebrate on the court while confetti falls from the ceiling, those teams are almost never built only with superstars. They're built with Kevon Looneys. Players who don't need the ball to be valuable. Players who set the screen and then get out of the way. Players who grab the offensive rebound and immediately kick it back out to the shooter. Players who match up against the opposing center and defend them for 15 minutes a night without complaint, without drama, without asking for more credit. The Warriors didn't win 3 championships just because of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They won because they had a culture of doing the right thing, and Kevon Looney was one of the most important carriers of that culture for a decade. Now that culture, that championship DNA, has arrived in Los Angeles. And Luka Doncic, who has everything it takes to be a champion except a championship ring, is about to be surrounded by someone who has 3 of them. The Lakers didn't just sign a backup center. They signed a winner. And in this league, in this game, in this business where margins are thin and series are decided by single possessions and single rebounds, winning experience is priceless. Watch out for these Lakers. They might not be the most star-studded team in the Western Conference. They might not have the deepest bench or the most versatile lineup on paper. But they have an identity now. They have a system. They have a superstar who is hungry and healthy and leading the NBA in scoring. They have a coaching staff that is building something real around him. And now they have Kevon Looney, the quiet champion, the screen setter, the rebounder, the winner, suiting up in purple and gold for the first time in his life. The kid who grew up watching Kobe. Coming home. That's the story of the Lakers signing Kevon Looney. And honestly, this might just be the beginning of something special in Los Angeles. Stay tuned.